And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. If you guys are new to us on the Amazon platform, welcome. We're glad that you all can be with us. Also, we are simulcasting our broadcast today, so we do want to welcome those tuning in on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, as well as on Instagram. Glad you all could be with us as well. This is part of our Prime Day conversations that we're having here today. So glad to be able to welcome back someone who's no stranger to our broadcast. We're talking about best-selling author Dr. Velma Bagby. She's back with us to talk to us about the Catch series. You guys can see the books here. This is two of them, the book that started it all, The Catch No One Wants, you guys can see there. And then she has her newest book, The Catch Book of Fools. In the middle of those, though, you also have The Wrong Catch. You all can see it there, as well as The Wrong Catch, She'll Tear Down the House. We'll talk to Dr. Velma not only about the success of the series, but also what it's been like for her to see how readers are responding to them, as well as a new addition to her work as well, and that being returning of her podcast. We're going to talk about that too. Dr. Velma, welcome back to the broadcast.
Thank you, Cyrus. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I'm excited.
Well, the pleasure's definitely all mine. Congratulations on what's been a very busy July for you. As I mentioned,
Yes.
you relaunched your podcast this month. You've still been promoting the Catch series. First of all, let's talk about the podcast, Dr. Velma. How does it feel to have the podcast return?
I love talking. I love sharing. And so it feels like freedom for me because writing in fiction, you have to stay in a fictional mode. But being able to talk about and bring to life some of the things I've talked about in and with real examples, I love to have the opportunity to do that so that people can understand that it's more than fiction. It's a lot of truth built into those stories.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I've appreciated. You and I've talked about that, Dr. Velma, that the truth definitely comes through even in the fiction. And it's such an important topic when we're talking about dating, marriage,
Yes.
relationships, and making it last, making it
Yes.
and realizing the work in that. It's interesting. I thought about it. I don't think I've ever brought this up to you before. I was
Mhm.
talking to a guest who was a marriage therapist,
Uh-huh.
and she did not like the fact that I called marriage work. She said when she talks to her clients, she doesn't like to use that phrase because it makes them feel like it's almost like a job. But in my mind, now of course I've never been married. I think, okay, well, anything that you want to last, it requires effort at least.
Absolutely.
What has that been like for you to talk about, Dr. Velma, either in discussing your books or even in with your show, about the effort that it takes to make a relationship work?
Yeah, I was asked that question. I think my husband and I were approached recently
Hmm.
to have a conversation with a group at a church, just to sit down, tell them about our experience, our lives, make suggestions on what we feel are great things to do in a marriage relationship. Again, the things that you need to know about to make it long lasting. And again, I like the word work because in everything that we do, it, like you said, it requires an effort. And
Yeah.
so there's no secret uh, potion to any of this. It's like you said, it is commitment. It is a made up mind. I remember my husband and I looking at each other in the very beginning, said, "Look at this face. Get used to it because it's not going anywhere." And so what we were saying to each other was, we're in this for the long haul. And so it helped us to ride through some of the storms. It helped us to maneuver through some of the challenges. It just helped us, as I talk about the LCW, the leave, cleave, and weave that God tells us to do. The weaving part is the hard part. It is melting those two different personalities, two different upbringing, two different ways of communicating, two different ways of processing, and melding those together and figuring out a way to make it work.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it is one of those things that definitely individuals, men and women, need to think about. I want to say hello to you, literary ambassadors, joining us over on IG. Glad to be able to see you. I appreciate you guys also over there on LinkedIn and YouTube. I see you guys too. If you have any questions or comments for Dr. Velma, make sure you guys put
Mhm.
those in the chat as she's joining us for our Prime Day conversation. So, Dr. Velma, I think, you and I always go back to the beginning. Um, Now you have 4 books in this series. Talk to
Yes.
us about what inspired book number 1. What was it like for you with The Catch No One Wants to kind of get things kicked off?
It's just seeing just getting frustrated with some of the problems I noticed, whether having conversations with women or being knowledgeable about some issues and challenges I've watched in couples, watching couples walk away too soon. And I thought, wow, they're the perfect couple, but they're giving up during the storm. Understanding what it takes to manage those challenges that come your way. I said, well, okay, God, how do I communicate this? How do I get the word out about some of the problems I'm watching and why those problems are happening? Because we were slowly walking away from the guidelines God had given us when all those tools and tips are right there. We just didn't know, many of us. And so wisdom that I got growing up, I just saw that gap not happening anymore. And that's what compelled me to take some time and weave some of those challenges and problems into stories that would resonate with people because they're true to life. Many of the things that I talked about are real life stories, real life issues.
Right. So true. I want to talk about something you and I have never really discussed, Dr. Velma, and that is the actual title, the phrase, "The Catch No One Wants." How did you come up with that title for the first
Well,
book?
I have to credit my Christian marketing teacher at the time because remember, this was early in my writing. And
Mhm.
so I got into a Christian marketing class because I really wanted to understand what I'm to do with the audience, how I'm supposed to build the audience. Back then, I didn't have a YouTube. I had an Instagram account, but there's maybe 5 people on there, 10. I don't know. I didn't know anything about building social media. And so in that class, I learned to do those things. But I also learned we did a deep dive together, she and I. Told her about the project. We worked on some possibilities. And when I explained I was using the fish characters, she came up with the word catch. And then I came up with the acronym. Catch stands for Christ-like attributes at the core of his heart or her heart. And that's what the catch
Hmm.
stands for. So she helped me come up with that since I was using fish, but I came up with the acronym that fit perfectly with it.
Interesting. You and I've never discussed that before.
I know.
And so but no, I thought about it for this conversation for those who may just be discovering it. That title, "The Catch No One Wants." I want to talk about that. I know the main character we are able to meet in the first book
Hmm.
is Veronica, as far as the one who kind of
Right.
needs the
Right.
guidance. Um, how much of that title, when you kind of think about her character, Dr. Velma, was about her perception of herself?
It was all of it because
Mhm.
she discounted the guy that was the perfect match for her. She just
Yeah.
had this vision in her mind or this list in her mind of what he should look like, what he should be doing, what type of work he should, she judged him on the fact that he was working in construction with his father. They were young people growing up together because the father and he worked at her parents' house, worked at their business. And so she knew what he did as they grew up together. So he had been around her all that time,
Right.
invited back to the house for events, all of that. But she kept ignoring him because, oh, he's in construction. And I thought that was so perfect because I hear so many women make judgments like that, which is just plain ridiculous. And remember, you and I talked about First Samuel with Daniel. If they were invited to that gathering of the prophet going to
Yeah.
anoint Jesse's sons, I mean, they would have gotten caught up on the other brothers and not Daniel.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, not Daniel, David.
David.
They would
Yeah.
have gotten caught up because of the fact that he didn't look the part.
Yeah.
And then his job, he was out there with the dirty sheep and taking care of the animals. And so they would have judged him based on that. And so that's exactly what Veronica did. And in the end, after the intervention, she was able to pull back, like her father said, stop looking, let God present this person. You work on yourself so that you're ready. And
Yeah.
that's when our eyes open to
Yeah. And that's how we're able to see how it moves on to the wrong catch. I want to say, for those who are just tuning
yeah.
in, welcome. You all are watching Cyrus Webb Presents, our Prime Day Conversations, of course, on Amazon, but also on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, and on Instagram. We're speaking with best-selling author Dr. Velma Bagby today about the success of the Catch series and her podcast. We're going to let you guys know how to be able to catch new episodes as well. That leads us to an interesting point, though, about the wrong catch, Dr. Velma, because after Veronica learned better, she not only did better, but she
Yeah.
wanted to pour into others. Do you see a bit of yourself in that? The fact that she she was able to realize what really mattered, and then was able to help other women do the same thing.
It's kind of like what you and I talked about before we started the live, the wonderful success that you've had and the great things that are coming your way, and you leave the breadcrumbs for those that you're working with. Well, we're blessed, and when God blesses us, we should be able to help someone else on the journey as well. So we've been blessed with 50 years of marriage. Why not help some others succeed and have the same thing? Because we have it. It's not like we've been married 2 minutes and I'm trying to tell everybody how to be married. But
Right.
we've been married 50 years. And I
Right.
say that to a lot of people. You want to talk to someone who's credible, who understands the journey. So the one with 2 minutes, they can't help me. But someone with 50 years can kind of tell me what you need to know in the beginning, understand some of the rough patches and know what to expect on the journey and how to manage it and how to overcome it. And so that was what was important to me. So yes, Veronica is very similar to me, very similar to you. We don't want to have and accomplish what we've accomplished and not be able to share it with someone else who we're hoping will accomplish the same.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point. And there is a book, of course, for us guys too, The Wrong Catch. She'll tear down the house. I say for us guys, but also I think women can benefit from this too, of looking at things from a different perspective. So I want to talk about the red flags, because I think that's something that goes for The Wrong Catch and The Wrong Catch, She'll tear down the house, Dr. Velma, because again, it can be, this is something, and you and I talked about this before, that this is not just in relationships, it's in life, it's in business. We all
Absolutely.
sometimes see things, hear things, and say, oh, well, that's not a big deal, or I can overlook that, I can deal with that. And then it ends up becoming something even bigger and can be more dangerous. That's something you've talked about quite a bit, even in the analogy with the fish. You talked about in the catch no one wants, Dr. Bama, but you
Mhm.
definitely got into it with the wrong catch. Talk to us about that. What it's been like for you to talk with men and women about the importance of being observant, being watchful, but also being prayerful.
It's about what I call leaving high school dating in high school. Oh, he's so cute. Oh, she's so cute. Oh, is she looking at me? Oh, is he looking at me? Oh, is he paying attention? That's high school dating stuff. And
Right.
so it's interesting how we still practice it as adults, when the strategy should be, if this is your goal, marriage is your goal, then your strategy should change. It's not about high school. It's really about examining, like I said, the heart of the person. What is at the core of this person? Who is this person? What are they like? What's their history? What have they done? Have they had bad relationships in the past? What happened? What did they do? We need to take our time and really examine the heart of the person and see who they are. I read something recently about a famous couple who is dating, and everybody complained about who the guy was because of his reputation. And I'm going, oh, wow. Here we
Yeah.
go. We have to really examine who this person is and stop falling in love with what I call conditions, things that you see on the outside. He's got the right career, he's got the right income, he's got the right, no offense, Cyrus, height.
Hmm. No, I
All
get
of
it.
that stuff are conditions. What difference does it make? David
Right.
was ruddy and short, and so you make a judgment, and this guy's getting ready to be the next king. So what did you miss out on? And so
Right.
I'm saying that that's what Veronica did when she discounted this guy. And so when I got into book two, I wanted to continue that conversation around looking at the wrong men, and that's what some of the women did. And in the wrong catch, we dealt with professional women and their judgment of men and how they accuse men of being intimidated by their success, which is not true. They
Yeah.
use the same process they use in business, in building a brand and building something that was not great in the beginning and turning it around. They use that same approach with their relationships, and they don't realize that that doesn't work in relationships.
So true. So true. Hello to you, Melissa. Good to see you
Hey,
over there on the
Melissa.
Facebook side. She says hello as well. And I think again, this is why conversations like this are so important, Dr. Velma. And
Yeah,
honestly, if it was not for guests like you who write about these things, I wouldn't be talking about them on my project, because I make it a point of not talking about things I don't know anything about. And
yeah,
so when I have people who have written about things, who discuss things, it definitely makes for an interesting conversation. So I'm
yeah.
curious for you though. You've shared this with me before, and I think even with some of our radio audience and maybe even here on Amazon, about Grayson, because I
Yeah,
feel like the one constant in this whole series has been Grayson.
yeah,
He's been the person who, even though we know he had to think about his approach in the first book, To Catch No One Wants, he's been the one who's really been that anchor and support. Um, what has that been like for you to have that character kind of be that stabilizing force in this series?
I think it's important because of the bad rap that men have gotten over the years in terms of this kind of uh, in terms of dating and relationships and marriage. Men get the bad rap, and I found that based on my experience and conversation, it really isn't the men all the time. Most of the time it's the women, because when we talk about the Book of Fools, something Dr. Todd said to me once on one of the comments she wrote. She said, now who's the real fool? And she's absolutely right. She's absolutely right. You made the choice, so who's the real fool?
Yeah,
And so it's important that we understand what it takes to really examine the person, what it takes to really understand the person, and the tools that we need to apply in that process. So I'm happy to hear, Cyrus, that something I've said during our conversation has resonated with you. I hope it resonates with many people. If they don't get the book, at least these conversations is getting their attention about what they need to do better. And even, people who have been in bad relationships in the past are fearful of a relationship, and they could be missing out on something wonderful.
yeah. Melissa's trying to get us off track, Dr. Velma. She says, I love that necklace on you. We're not here to talk about the necklace, Melissa. Hey, this is not Dream Party Live.
Mississippi is in the house. Woo-hoo.
Oh, well, Mississippi's going to be in the house whether the necklace was on or not.
Well, that is so true, Cyrus. Excuse me.
Okay. You know I got to give you a heart.
All right, no problem. No problem.
But no, but I think that is what is so cool. So I want to ask you something.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking on the fiction side of this series,
Uh-huh.
could you see something happening to Grayson?
Could I see something happening to Grayson
Mm-hmm.
other than him becoming more popular and being sought after? He is now on TV. His brand has grown and he's launched into a whole new arena because he's now in demand.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I can see happening with Grayson.
Okay.
Again,
Okay.
he represents that father figure.
Yeah.
And that was something important for me to have there, because many don't have that anymore. Having a father figure who understands this process, understands his role as a dad, to vet this guy. Most fathers won't allow any guy in through the door unless he really understands who this guy is coming to talk to his daughter. I mean, my dad was like that when he met my husband, kind of, sort of. He met him and saw him, and he said, well, what does he do? We were 16. Said, Dad, I'm not going to marry the guy. Little did I know those words did not make any sense, because I did marry the guy. But I remember my dad first meeting him, and he was thinking, well, what does he do? What's his plan after school? Is he going to college? What's his career goal? He just ran down that list. And so just because we don't have that anymore, it doesn't excuse the fact that you should be asking more pointed questions. And like you said, paying attention to the red flags too. Something that people make excuses for so many times. And I think it's pretty sad.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Velma, before we wrap up, I want to give you the floor to talk about the podcast. So I'm going to take you full screen here. Let our audience know the name of the podcast and what is it that led you to be able to start it.
I think it was how I got started. I began there. I was actually on a podcast regularly live, just talking about it because I felt that it was important for me to discuss dating and relationships. So the podcast is entitled Dr. Velma Talks, Dating, Relationships, and Marriage. And I want to make it clear we're talking about godly dating, godly marriages. And so it was important for me to go back to where I began, because I enjoy sharing and talking about topics that I cover in the books and expounding upon some of the topics that I have there, and really giving you more relatable examples, real life examples. And so I'm excited to be able to share this. It airs every Saturday at 12 noon Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, and it's on all the social media platforms from Facebook Live to Instagram to YouTube and LinkedIn. So feel free to tune in anytime. And it's also on Amazon Audible. It's on iHeartRadio. That's what I was thinking. So I would look forward to you joining and tuning in.
There you go. So it's great to be able to see you in that element, Dr. Velma. I'm glad to be able to see you being able to embrace that side of your brand.
Yes.
So congratulations on that. Again, everyone, Dr. Velma Bagby has been our guest for this segment. The Kit series is available here on Amazon. You guys can be able to get it there. And Dr. Velma, how can they stay connected with you?
Oh, just go to drvelmabagby.com, my website, or any of the social media platforms as Dr. Velma Bagby.
All right, Dr. Velma, another great conversation with you. Thank you so
Cyrus.
much for the time, and looking forward to our next chat together.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Cyrus.
Hey, more than welcome. And we thank you, our viewers, for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents. There is much more to come. Melissa says, congratulations to you, Dr. Velma.
Thank you,
of course, want to thank all of you for being with us as we continue our Prime Day conversations. Until next time, I'm Cyrus Webb saying thank you so much for being with us. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Take care, Cyrus.